How much further?
We're going underwater, okay, Dave? I might warning you. Gungans no liking outsiders, so don't expect a warm welcome.
Oh, don't worry. This hasn't been our day for warm welcomes.
Hello, Star Wars aficionados. Welcome once again to your two Turkish eccentric speculative evolution enthusiast show, the CMTK Star Wars Creature Extravaganza, where me, CM Kozeman, and my co-host Darth Sivgin review all the strange creatures that appear in the Star Wars films before the property's acquisition by Disney, let us say. And in the previous episode, which you can see in the video description, we talked about many different kinds of weird creatures that appear in the first released, let us say, Star Wars films. That is to say, episodes 4, 5, and 6. Now we are going to what I think are my favorite Star Wars films of all time, the prequels. And before beginning, I would just like to shill out our Patreons for myself and TK Sivgin. The links are in the video description and in the pinned comment. And you know, both of us are doing this from the goodness of our heart. We both have day jobs, but we still keep doing it for the love of weirdness, basically. And if you enjoy this show and feel the need to contribute for as little as $1 per month, just it would be extremely welcome. So with that said, Lord Sivgin, what is your take on things? How are things so far? Anything you'd like to promote? How is everything?
Oh, everything is going well so far. Like I said in the first video, I have a book out. People can buy it. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I just want to jump right to things. But first, we have to correct an error we made in the first video.
Oh, goddamn, yes,
yeah,
an awful omission.
Yeah, we somehow forgot to talk about the Sarlacc from episode 6.
Yes, everybody. This is the abominable pit creature that appears in The Return of the Jedi, and it's just a set piece, but it's this big pit with teeth. And if you watch the later versions, there's also some digital tentacles and also like a beak that looks like a weird gloved mouth. So depending on which version of the film you watch, the creature belongs to an entirely different phylum almost. And what do you think about the Sarlacc?
I don't know. I always thought it was a very iconic creature, which makes it even weirder that we somehow forgot to talk about it. I mean, I actually, that's another, it's actually one of my other first contact points with Star Wars, because one day at a family gathering at my grandparents' house, and my uncle was tasked with bringing me to bed, and he didn't know any class fairy tale, so instead he told me the story of how Luke survived the Sarlacc pit.
Wasn't it Boba Fett that fell into the Sarlacc pit and survived?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the whole plot point that they pick up again in the Boba Fett's own show.
So there are like a couple of versions of that thing, like, and I think in one of the more like eldritch versions of the story, this Sarlacc pit, this like fleshy giant antlion like pit with teeth, it actually has like a mind of its own, so it keeps you alive as it digests you, or like it kind of ports your mind into a sadistic simulation space, or I don't know, like I faintly remember things like this reading the deepest lore, but what's your take on that?
I believe, like, not right now, I'm reading through the books again. I believe that is actually still canon, because first C-3PO in the movie says that it will digest for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And in the beginning of the Boba Fett show, I think that it actually shows that, like, it shows a stormtrooper inside like the body wall of the gastric system that is like attached to some like biologics, like kept semi-alive as Boba Fett is fighting way out. So yeah, I think still canon that it somehow like only by like keeping you on life support for like a long time.
Alright, unnecessarily cruel, but here we go. I guess this is like a sort of eldritch organism. It's actually more complicated than your average sophont.
Look, here in the Wildlife Source, they show what it looks like underneath the sand.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this like gigantic creature. The cone-like part is there, and obviously, well, that's the part we see in the film. Then it's got like weird, almost breast or testicle-like things attached to it. Then there's a lot of legs. They're like a cross between a mole's forelimbs, a spider's legs, and the pedals of a seal. And then there's actually a baby Sarlacc budding off.
Oh no, it's not. It's not a baby. It's the male. You know, like in anglerfish.
Oh, okay, I get it.
So, like the female is the very big one, and the male is like a very small, almost parasitic creature.
I mean, look, with what we know with the Sarlacc, and if you also consider the Mandalorian shows and the Boba Fett shows, there are also Krayt dragons that swim in the sand. It looks like this Tatooine place has this like healthy, thriving ecosystem of giant, monster-sized swimming creatures, eh?
Well, where did George Lucas get that inspiration from?
I guess this is where we play the amazing Dune. I think I played this in post-production, but yeah, maybe,
funny.
I don't know.
Like I recently rewatched episode 4 again, and it's funny how even in that movie they talk about spice stuff.
Yeah, there's like spice mines of Kessels, spice smugglers.
Like C-3PO is like scared that he will be put there by the Jawas,
and the whole prophecy of the Jedi is like quite similar to Muad'Dib, if you think about it.
Yeah, like you can draw so many parallels, and it's like very obvious that George Lucas was inspired by it. And apparently, from what I read from forums, like many like hardcore fans hated Star Wars because of that, because they just saw it as a rip-off.
I mean, if you think about it, by the way, for posterity, we are recording on the 8th of March 2024, and like I think you saw it too. We both saw the Dune 2 sequel by Denis Villeneuve, and it's just a fantastic, mind-blowing film. Like,
great.
I mean, some people in the audience, let us say, hesitate to visit it because they find Timothée Chalamet annoying. But believe me, like, it doesn't show. When you watch the film, you really see like Paul Muad'Dib, and like not that guy like him or don't like.
I mean, he is a genuinely good actor.
Yeah. Well, just needed to get that out of the way. But yeah, imagine like you're in 1977 or whatever, and you go to the cinema. It's like so early in the Star Wars universe. I don't think they even cut out the scene where Luke and Leia kissed. So you see something like that, and you would see that, okay, maybe it is a bastardized version of my favorite book. Like,
yeah, I think it's also just a bit of bitterness that because Star Wars is so much more popular than Dune.
True.
I can even name 2 reasons why that is.
Yeah, go on.
Because Dune explicitly does not have alien and robot. And what does StarArs have? Exactly those things.
Aliens and robots.
Yeah.
True.
And of course, like many like casual sci-fi fans want to read sci-fi for that, whereas Dune is it's just humanity by itself, and that's kinda like it's not exciting. It's almost claustrophobic. Think about it.
Yeah. Although in the new Dune films, well, let's talk about Dune sometime else. But I will also like add to your answer by also mentioning that also perhaps Star Wars is a less Muslim-coded, in some ways lightened version of Dune. Maybe that could also factor in the analysis.
In my family, we sometimes do make jokes about like the sand people and Jabba. like when my father like sits on the couch at home, like we might sometimes make like comparisons to Jabba the Hutt. And like when the Tusken Raiders appear, we make like jokes about family members. But I don't know. But you're right. It's like it's like geared. You're right that Star Wars is geared much more to like a general like Americanized audience, whereas Dune is very explicitly like Muslim themed.
I mean, Dune is for the sort of 1960s Berkeley, California, like educated subculture, where they're like both involved in like, I mean, they got like an inordinate fondness for the other, let us say.
Yeah.
But
it is a very cynical look at the story of Lawrence of Arabia, basically.
Yeah, actually, okay, now if you're going along those tangents, let's expound upon that. But you're very right, basically, because I remember reading, especially now with the popularity of the Dune movies and all that, I remember reading about how Frank Herbert actually, it took him like 5-10 years to write this, and in some early versions it was more clearly modeled on Lawrence of Arabia. But then again, by the way, speaking of which, despite both of us having some sort of Turkish ancestry, the original Lawrence of Arabia film with Peter O'Toole and everyone else in it is a masterpiece of filmmaking. It's like, I really recommend that. The landscapes, the way people move and stuff, it's a kind of filmmaking from a different age, because you got very simple simple scenes where this Bedouin character approaches from a distance and basically he's speaking to Lawrence from atop his camel. Even the very gestures, the way the animal moves, like it's really beautifully put together. I guess we're not in the good side of history in that film, you and I, but still,
Squeeze me!
Okay, for the record, this was a joke.
I can cut it.
No, it's fine. I mean, they got fucked over by the Brit. We all got fucked over by the British in that conflict. Let's be honest.
Oh well, look, if you want to talk about World War One, it seems that basically there were some also back channel dealings between Allenby and the Turkish High Command, basically kind of agreeing to a handover of the Middle East in exchange for certain guarantees later and looking at the way Britain and Turkey repaired their enmities right after World War One. I mean, look, we can go down this when you have Turkish people this will in 10 minutes it will but do you believe in God or something. So let us skip the coffee table talk and let's move in actually to episode 1, Aliens of episode 1.
He's named Jar Jar Binks. He's
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent, but actually that film, when it first came out, you're probably here because of speculative evolution. And in that film, it's probably the first depiction of a fully realized CGI ecosystem, especially during the forest stampede scenes. What do you think about it?
I mean that forest stampede scene, even though it lasts a seconds, it's so full of creatures, you couldn't stop at every frame and just look at and just discover something new.
Yes.
And it only gets fleshed out in all of these supplementary books, like the Wildlife of Star Wars. I'm having here, but I mean, okay, let's take a step back first, general opinion on the prequels. Maybe let's talk about that first.
I always thought they were great, and I say it with no shame. I think red letter media kind of turned people against them unnecessarily. Some of their claims, they kind of pushed on the claim saying it was too reliant on CG, or it was lonely people in front of a green screen. But actually there were a lot of physical props made for that film, and that critique almost doesn't apply. So
apparently, even though it's not very apparent, apparently episode 2, for example, use more practical effects than the sequels.
Yes, true. And
I'm not sure how true that is. I just remember reading that somewhere.
And look, they made a lot of they cried a lot basically about the lines being too simple and it was dumbed down. But actually, look, the best way to measure these is look at how many memes are made from each batch of Star Wars movies. And the prequels win hands down. Almost every memorable, each one of those lines which people assumed were simple became memes later on. General.
I have to counter that a bit, because just because something is memorable doesn't mean it is good. I mean, people make memes about The Room, for example.
Yeah, but I think in this case, it really is that simple. What do you have for the Disney sequels? Ben Swallow. That's all I can remember.
Somehow Palpatine return.
Yeah, and somehow Palpatine return. Oh, you see, that's the kind of meme that's the kind of meme you're talking about.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you are definitely right. The prequels are just way more memorable and also, honestly, just a lot more entertaining.
Yes.
But I will say, look, my personal story with these movies is that for years I only watched them in German, and only a few years ago did I actually watch them in English first when I showed them to my ex-girlfriend, and that's actually the first time I realized why some people might not like it, because the German dub did a lot to alleviate some of the cringeness of the dialogue, because I was legit shocked when I first heard Hayden Christensen talk in episode 2 in the original English, because it just
the famous sand speech.
Yeah, or even before that, some of the things he says to Padme are it's just cringe the way he says it. And no offense to Hayden Christensen, I think he did probably the best job he could. He was just being directed very weirdly by George Lucas, and that is a known problem even from the original trilogy with Lucas, that he has a bit of trouble directing believable organic dialogue. Yeah.
Well,
But that's like honestly such a small problem.
yes.
It doesn't overshadow the whole risk for me.
No, I think like in terms of world building, like I always, when I first saw these films and I saw them in the theater, I was in the more creature phase of my life, and I really didn't like care too much about the story, but like the Naboo stampede scene and all those pod racers, like, I mean, let's go there. In fact, like, who's your favorite pod racer? All those background characters in Tatooine, and remember,
let's go like linearly through the movies. I think that's better. Like,
all right.
So like, what's the? I mean, what is the? I think the first alien we see in Episode 1 are like the Nemoidians with the. I think in English they have like Chinese accent, German they have French accents. I think French they have like English accent.
Oh.
Like this. What is this called? Like this trope has a name, but I forgot.
I think they call it othering in academic circles.
I guess, yeah. But
I think they were cool. Like, if there was a subtle racial stereotype there, I did not get it. For me, they were like these strange aliens. They actually reminded me of gray aliens. Like when I first saw them.
They are in the lore actually related to the Duros, which are like even more typical gray aliens that you see in like Cantina scene.
And I remember from the lore also that they had this larva form, and as larvas they were forced to eat each other, and that's why they become so greedy and selfish. That was the lore.
What I want to say about them is that they're actually a very great practical effect, because they're not CGI, they're people in masks, but the masks are like articulated quite well.
So they are like the swan song of this like long heritage of practical effect that kind of like reached a crescendo during films like Return of the Jedi or the original 1990s Ninja Turtle films. All these masks with like dozens of tiny radio controlled motors in them, each activating a special muscle or like feature. I think it was like the swan song of those things.
I mean, this movie for the longest time was also the last one where Yoda was portrayed by a puppet.
Yeah.
Although that puppet, it always looked weird compared to the one from the original trilogy, and I think they noticed because in like later re-releases of Episode 1, they replaced it with the CGI model.
I think it was a nice hat tip to keep Yoda as a puppet.
But the puppet just didn't look that good compared to the earlier one. I don't know what happened there.
The earlier one, they used a lot of caveats. I mean, Luke was always crouching. It was always shot in a closed environment, and it was always kind of in like a clustered with like lots of furniture and stuff around. So now when you see this thing move around, I still like, I mean, having watched the original films, Yoda is still very puppet coded in my mind. So when I saw we're gonna skip ahead a bit, but when I saw him like do the amazing kung fu fight in episode 2,
that is amazing.
Yeah, he was a great warrior after all.
I mean, that was a big reveal that he could actually sword fight when you think about it, because before that you never saw him do that. People always assumed he was a great Jedi Master because he could manipulate the Force very well.
Yeah, and then when episode 2 was out, I remember there was this like extremely cringe TV ad for, I think it was Pizza Hut or another fast food brand, and it basically goes through those scenes of Yoda fighting, and it says, "Who the man? Who the man? Yoda man!" And then it's just like a loop of those scenes in like the most bastardized, crass version imaginable. If you are listening, dear viewers, if you are listening and remember this Yoda man ad, please respond, because I remember seeing this when I was in the United States. Actually, I remember seeing this, and yeah, it just scarred me in a way I will never forget.
My question is, if it really was a Pizza Hut ad, why didn't they use Jabba the Hutt?
I don't know, but I think
the joke is right there. Pizza the Hut, Spaceballs even makes that joke.
Yeah, to dive deeper, actually, there was also a very weird, I don't remember the brand. It could be Pizza Hut or KFC or Arby's or Burger King, but I distinctly remember this episode 1 based pod racer ad featuring a unique alien never before or since encountered in the Star Wars galaxy.
That was Pepsi. I actually saw a video about that. Yeah, like the worst Star Wars, where they created a new alien just for those Pepsi ads.
Yeah. So like it's in New York, okay? A couple gets into a cab in a busy time. And it's like New York, there's lots of traffic, and they say like to, I don't know, like 58th Street or something, and then the cab driver turns around. Going to the movies, all right? You want to see Star Wars? Ready to see the pod racer scene? And then he pushes a fucking button and the car like MIB morphs into a pod racer and goes like through the streets. And it's like, I mean, remember those years, the early 2000s, they're also like the high point of advertising, where like the kind of advertising executives who went through the Mad Men era, they reached this like really sleazy peak during the early 2000s, and like for a moment they were kings upon the earth, and looks like one of their doings to me. Anyways, if you remember this too, please comment. I mean, let's commiserate over this shared trauma also, and also let's get some traction against the algorithm. Look, if you can't support monetarily, at least comment, because comments, I don't know why, but they really drive the video views somehow in a mystical way I'm not yet privy to. All right.
Yeah, so we are on Naboo. We talked about the Stampede scene, and I mean, let's talk about Jar Jar, I guess.
Yeah, this is inevitable. For me, once again, I mean, he wasn't terrible. He wasn't memorable either.
Really?
He was just, once again, too human-coded for me. I appreciated how they kind of made him fully CG, and like in those days when you saw a fully CG character interact with live cast members, it was like a memorable incident. So I like that, but I did not have like a strong hate towards him. Like, you know, back in those years, it was like, Jar Jar must die, blah blah blah. I did not have a strong like towards him, but for me it was like Chewbacca. He was like one of those like human adjacent characters that are alien, but they're too familiar to humans for me to really curious about them.
I mean, I watched movies at a very young age, like 7, and I just really loved him because he was just, I know, he was obviously like based on Goofy in some way, and I loved Goofy.
Yeah, true, very true. Did you imitate his walk too?
Yeah, what the hell? How do you know?
It's difficult to like this sort of weird like hand swinging, foot dragging walk. I mean, I'll just say
like
I could see how it got into people. That's all.
Yeah, like there was this interview with Terry Whitledge from that documentary I told you about, where she says like they explicitly designed him with like kind of bird-like legs, where like the shin bone is longer than the thigh bone, and that's it's like almost emu-inspired walk.
Yeah, I did not know about this, but yeah, I was also like, since we're dealing with creatures here, I was also interested by his like almost sauropod-like or dinosaur-like feet, which have like very short toes, and it just seemed like counterintuitive on a creature that was supposedly able to swim. I don't know why they didn't give him webbed feet or like finned feet.
That's a good question. Maybe it was like, I mean, if we want to go into hard speculative evolution, then maybe it was like some weird adaptation towards bipedalism.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Also, let's also discuss the aborted dog that was planned for Jar Jar Binks.
He was supposed to have a dog?
Yes, Terrell Whitlatch designed this creature called Blarg, which is like, yeah, it's like BL.
I think I saw this in this book, wait. Yeah, it's the one that looks like a puck, right?
It looks like a giant pug the size of an elephant seal with a long tail, and for some reason it has got like really long scimitar-like teeth, almost like that of a deep sea fish. And it was meant to be Jar Jar's sidekick, and they just ended up not doing it because of budget reasons. But I think if this movie was made several years later, it would definitely have been there, and
I found it, yeah. I found
maybe
it.
It would have been cringy.
I guess so.
And it has a very long tongue, like a cross between a frog and a chameleon.
It's basically a frog dog, kind of like in... have you watched the John Carter movie?
Oh yes, it had the like
Woola,
ridiculous fast dog. I don't even remember what it was called.
Yeah, Woola, that was its name. I really like that. I like Woola, that was a creature.
So for posterity, like when was the John Carter movie made?
2012, exactly 100 years after the novel it was based on release.
Okay, in 2012 there was a John Carter of Mars movie, and basically in this film it's set on Mars, and it's implied that because of low gravity, people and certain animals can move extraordinarily fast. And there's this dog called Moola, was it?
Woola with a W.
Woola with a W. And this thing looks like a pug with 8 legs and no ears, and it can literally run at something like 3 times the speed of sound. Like it can be like on the other side of the entire landscape, and then it like really rapidly runs, and I don't know. They used him as a kind of like plot device for like extremely fast transport, but yeah, that was just bizarre and like a complete insult to the laws of physics. Like if an animal would run that fast, it would generate so much heat that it would cook in its body.
Yeah, but Memo, it's like I said, it's a movie based on a novel that is now over 100 years old, and Vula already was like that in the novel.
Really? I did not know that.
Like Vula wasn't invented for the movie. That was a creature already in the books. That was. Yeah.
But was he really like able to run from?
I think he was.
Let us say Philadelphia to New York in 2 minutes or something like that.
I think that was a feature of his. I'm not sure anymore, but it's been a while since I read the books. But I mean, like it's John Carter of Mars. Obviously, it's not supposed to be realistic. It's like a deliberate throwback to like this earlier era that inspired Star Wars and such.
Yeah. Like that film had so much potential, but for some reason it faltered.
It's. I could talk hours about first how great the movie is and how Disney completely like squandered what they had.
Yeah. Like, okay, we already have like future backlogs for a Dune episode, and let's also do a John Carter.
Oh god, that would. Anyway, yeah, we were talking about the Gungan. I don't know, I just like them. They're cute.
And let us not skip some of my favorite creatures, the sea monsters.
Oh yeah, I wanted to get to those, but do you maybe want to talk about the underwater, because that one is also just
so
also
like
Bunga with like the bubble technology. That's so cool.
That was like, I think it's really influenced science fiction literature itself, because aside from maybe Alien, it was one of the first times we saw quote-unquote organic architecture, and the buildings were like really well designed, and it was the first time when we saw an alien city that really looked refined, and it showed that these Gungans, despite being almost aboriginals, had access to a very like eldritch form of technology. And look, if you're designing anything for a science fiction setting, it's very difficult to avoid these tropes of like when crafting the look and overall aesthetics of technology, it's very difficult to avoid these pitfalls where like it either looks like too mechanical or like some Warhammer kind of stuff, or like too organic and like biopunk. It's very rare to define a kind of technological aesthetic for an alien race that stands out as much as Otto Ganga does. My only question was privacy, like where do these people go to the toilet, or if like, I mean, all those fields, they must, although they are permeable to certain things.
Yeah.
But I think if you farted in them, the fart smell would just diffuse into the water from the energy walls.
Yeah, I guess so. Or maybe they have some like venting system.
Yeah. Who knows?
Or maybe they just go out in the water to do their business.
Probable. I mean, I don't know. We're also never treated to the exact secret of Gungan reproduction. Do we ever see any Gungan females?
In Clone Wars, see them.
Okay. So
like Jar Jar. No. Like Jar Jar has a girlfriend in Clone Wars, but she's of a different alien species. But you do see like a female Gungan at some point.
All right. And were there also some? Anyways, the Gungans are a weird bunch. Like the more you think about them, the weirder conclusions you arrive to.
Yeah, but I love that. Like it's so kind of so un-Star Warsy, but at the same time it just adds so much to the universe. Naboo in general is just one of the best Star Wars planets because it's like the most fleshed out. Because it's the only planet in that whole universe where you see more than one climate zone and where you see more than one civilization.
Yes, and also like let me talk about how that whole thing was designed, because usually in movies what happens is they give designers a list of this character has a spaceship, you're gonna design the spaceship, you're gonna design like the salt world, you're gonna design the war machines and whatever. But at least for episode 1, pre-production started years ago, and in the first 2 years or something, artists just created stuff without knowing what the plot was like, without knowing what was going to happen. So at the end they ended up with like a huge diversity of concept. I mean, all those palaces in Naboo were designed by architects and stuff, and like you had maybe 20 species of aliens, and Terrell Whitlatch even drew ecological diagrams for them, which was like
Yeah. I'm
To this
looking
day,
at it
it's
right now.
unheard of in film. It's unheard of. I mean, even for Avatar, the creatures were like designed with a kind of like business-like mentality. For like, you have, okay, there's gonna be the script is written first. They're gonna have swimming aliens. They're gonna have like a whale alien. They're gonna have like a main evil bad guy ship, whatever. So the list is already ready, and the designers just fill in the blanks. But in episode one, at least for 2 years, it was open-ended, and I think it was. I don't think anything like that is ever gonna happen again. But it was like one of the best times to be a creature designer. You just go to work and draw random creatures with some direction and then get paid for it. What a fucking dream. And
that Skywalker Ranch at that time, that must have been a magical place. He basically just had George Lucas going, design this and that for me, and then we'll sort it out later. And that must
not
have been...
even. I think the process was they hung everything on a wall, and then George Lucas would come along with 3 sets of stamps. One said Fabuloso, which he stamped on the best designs, and he kind of knew what these were gonna be. Another said okay, and this was like accepted, but it could be used for anything. Like you wanted a background alien, or like then they pulled it out or made something into something else. Then there was like let's try again, which was another design. Of course, you know what that means. But in the episode 1 production book, the concept art book, you even got these like incredible scenes where basically Terrell Whitlatch has drawn a weird alien with like 2 ray guns. It's like cherry pink, and its face looks like a South American porcupine, but the body is long and salamander-like, and it's got a long like reptilian tail. And basically the caption tells the whole story. It says like, oh, one day George Lucas saw the picture of a weird porcupine in the newspaper, and he gave that to Terrell Whitlatch, and he just said, give me a version of this with ray guns. And man, what a lovely design assignment. Incredible.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, like all of these people were paid a living wage. I mean, they were paid very professionally. Not like today where like you are paid either in exposure or every artist has to work 2 jobs and fight against AI just to keep above water. As the Star Wars trilogy says, a more civilized time.
Oh, absolute. What did I want to say? Yeah, do you want to jump to the sea monsters now?
Yeah. So like the whole...
There's like 3 really big ones that chase Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Jar Jar. They are called the, I think, OPC Killer.
The Colo Clowfish.
And the...
Tando Aqua Sea Monster.
Tando Aqua Monster, yes.
And you see the OPC Killer first. It looks like a...
Big gooberfish! Oh no!
It looks like a exoskeletal mix between a crab and a piranha really, but it also has a like long and I guess completely anti-hydrodynamic frog-like tongue, but it's just a plot element. Then you got my favorite, this might be my favorite Star Wars creature ever. So imagine like a 100-meter long sea monster with the head of a baryonyx dinosaur or a spinosaur, but then the rest of the Coloclowfish, yes, the head looks like baryonyx or Spinosaurus, but then behind the head there are 2 claws that look like an arachnid or a scorpion, and the rest of the body is almost like that of a kind of
it's like a mix
slug.
Yeah, it's like a mix between a sea slug and like a cuttlefish.
Exactly, and it's all fringed with these like blue biolights. I really love this, and like if this thing had a toy or a figure, it would be one of the only figures I would like to pay money to.
There has got to be figures of this, right? There is no way there is no merchandising that doesn't have these sea monsters.
I'm a proud owner of the OPC Killer, but I have not been able to. Maybe I just didn't look, but yeah.
Like, let me Google this. Like Colo Clawfish figure that has got to exist.
Yeah, if it exists, I will place it in the video description image, the headline image.
Apparently there are like very small figures.
Oh, you see?
And yeah, like it's like one of these like
micro machines.
It's like one of bungee things that you put in water and then they grow in size.
Oh no, that doesn't cut it. I want like a hard Bakelite or hard emulsion plastic figure with the mouth that doesn't move, for Christ's sake.
It's close to your microphone.
With a mouth that doesn't move, for Christ's sake. It's one of my bigger gripe with figure design in general.
I also found like this Hasbro figure. Can you see it?
Yeah. Wow, okay.
Yeah, but it's like, I think very small, like a minifigure.
Well, you can't have everything.
Yeah. But yeah, this is definitely a cool creature too.
Yep.
And which makes it a bit too bad that it's like killed in an almost Looney Tunes style way. Like they go into the cave, then they get attacked by the eel, and then they go out of the cave, and then the eel is just eaten by an even bigger fish.
There's always a bigger fish. And
Exactly.
yeah, this bigger fish is the Sando Aqua sea monster, which is something like 1 kilometer long.
Yeah, like I'm looking at an illustration of it right now where it is attacking Fambas, and Fambas are like sauropod-sized creatures that the Gungans ride, and this thing is like 20 times as long as them.
Yeah, so I guess it's a like almost kaiju-like creature.
It is absolutely like Godzilla-sized.
I think they were inspired by these giant Amazonian otters, which are freaking scary if you've seen pictures. Have you seen pictures of them?
Yeah, I think so. But I think the other main inspiration was like a swimming leopard.
True.
Because leopards are actually very good at swimming, apparently.
Leopards or jaguars?
Either, I think. Yeah, no, it was jaguars. Yeah, no, leopards live. I was thinking of the South American one. That's a jaguar.
Yeah, jaguars are built like Dominic Toretto from the Fast and Furious series, and they're like very chunky and quite savage too. So yeah, there's this very famous photograph of a jaguar swimming with like the EP angry face. Amazing.
Yes.
At this junction, should we just pause recording and let's take a quick break? I'll heat some pasta, and it's nearly 4 here, and I'll just make some pasta and we'll continue recording in 10 minutes as I eat it. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, so that's that now. We'll be back in a second, and next time you see us, it will be lunchtime.
This is nonsense. Oh, gopherfish.
Why were you banished, Jar Jar?
It's a long ortello, but a small part of it would be Miss clumsy.
You were banished because you were clumsy.
You so mightn't be saying that. Misa caused maybe 1 or 2 little bitty accidentes. You'd say, boom the gasser, then crash into Boss's hay blibber, then banished. Big gopherfish! Huge on teeth!
There's always a bigger fish.
And that was the intermission, everybody. Sponsored by Nuhun Ankara Boncuk Pasta Makarna. These are just the, well, very sorts of pasta. They are kind of like little beads, but like when you cook them up and mix them with boiled eggs, oof, you get the ultimate boy lunch, the most fulfilling sort of pasta. And we are back with the CMTK stream hour, talking about the creatures of the Star Wars prequels. And in nearly an hour of talking, we've only made into like the first half of episode 1.
Yeah, we got distracted by Dune and World War One.
But
Just keep happening.
No, that's the meat and bones of the show. So maybe we'll have 3 episodes, who knows. Sure. So we reached Otoganga. We have covered the strange sea monsters. And What's next?
And then they are already wait, I need to shut the sunlight is overheating my laptop. So they then they rescue Princess Amidala, or do they? That's the twist. And then they flee to Tatooine with her. I guess on Tatooine, I think we can just jump straight to the pod racers.
Yeah, but actually Tatooine itself has this one memorable character, Watto, which is
Watto,
who is one of the most
Republican credits don't work, only money.
Look, whenever I hear this, I'm reminded. I'm sure George Lucas remembers it too. Like, there's this 1930s film about the Rothschild family made in the UK, and look, for posterity, I'm also of Jewish descent, so I guess I can say this. There's this very memorable scene where Baron Rothschild says, "Money is the only weapon a Jew has to defend himself. Money is strength. Money is power." And then I'm certain that this somehow inspired, or at least informed, Watto's lines in that film. But that whole bit aside, Watto is one of the most extraordinary aliens to grace the silver screen, don't you think?
Yeah, he's just so weird.
Mhm.
And again, I think we already addressed it in last episodes, but to give like complete background, apparently Watto is based on the character of Fagin from Oliver Twist.
Ah, yes, the like kind yet cruel slave master. Yeah.
And Fagin himself was like an explicit anti-Semitic stereotype. But
Okay.
I think George, like, I don't want to accuse George Lucas of anything. I think he just wanted a character archetype of a slave owner, and he chose that. He just wasn't like aware of the wider implication.
I mean, it's a very thorny subject. Without getting too deep into it, I don't think in any of these stereotypes George Lucas has evil intent, and
He is just a product of his time, let's be honest.
oh, not just that, but I think like, and I've been saying this in the first version of this podcast too, I think throughout Star Wars there's this sort of jocular, almost parody image of America with different sorts of people, greedy, good, bad. Like the cantina scene in the original episode 4 was like clear, like hat tip to New York. And I think in acknowledging these tropes, he doesn't necessarily want to promote, or in the very least, he does not want to construe them in a way that's derogatory. That's what I take from it. And ultimately, they're like a very light part of the films in general. So maybe.
I mean, you can actually interpret a message into the movies that even if like some of the aliens are very strange and kind of like not rules wrong, like even if you cannot agree with their cultural practices, they are still like worthy of respect. That's like the point of Jar Jar. I think like he is, even in universe, everyone finds him annoying, but he still has merit as a person.
Yeah, not just that, but like specifically dealing with Jar Jar, he's also like the classic tarot card, the Fool, and I think he's a very potent symbol of kind of like the road to hell being paved with good intentions, but that's later on in the trilogy. Let's focus on Watto for now, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, he is like very interestingly designed. But one thing that always irked me is that he has a trunk, like a tapir, but his nostrils are at the nose base and not at the tip of the trunk. Like, what's the sense behind that?
In that respect, I think he's similar to a more recent movie, Hayao Miyazaki's Boy and the Heron, which features a shape-shifting entity that masquerades as a heron bird, but actually it also has a similar detail. Basically, it beak conceals a human face and the nose, but it also has the heron nostrils, so it's like kind of counterintuitive thing.
I'm looking at, like, I have for our viewers, I have the Essential Guide to Aliences of Star Wars right in my hand, and I'm looking at the Toydarian page. Watto is a Toydarian, and in the illustration they use, he has basically 4 nostrils, like 2 at the tip of his trunk and the 2 at the base that you see in the movie.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a kind of dual purpose thing. I mean, maybe these things dive into the swamp and sometimes stay submerged there. We never know. But the weird thing about Watto, when I first saw him on the silver screen, I never like imagined about stereotypes, but it was just like some of that very old Star Wars magic coming back, and it felt like this was a galaxy where having even the weirdest like hummingbird tapir creature was basically normal, and was just like when Qui-Gon Jinn encounters him, he doesn't even like consider his weird appearance. He's just one of the many different things that live there and is equipped with sentience, and Qui-Gon treats him with dignity and respect to as far as it can go. And that was always like a big message in my mind about Star Wars universe when I first saw these films. Basically, you are evaluated through the merits of your actions. I mean, I'm sure there are Toydarians who are not slave makers, you know what I mean?
I mean, there are good Toydarians. The Clone Wars TV show, for example.
I don't know about this character, but
like in the very first episode of Clone Wars, where they start with I think the very first plot of Clone Wars takes place on Toydaria. And it's about like the king of Toydaria, like he's undecided on whether to support the Republic or the Separatists, and he's like a very like respectful individual, like very different from Watto, and I think they deliberately made
rehabilitating the character.
That these races aren't each like a stereotype, and I like that.
Oh well. But then, like going outwards from Watto, the entire planet of Tatooine is actually extremely diverse, like second only to Naboo. You have those Rontos and dewbacks again. You have the Epoi creatures, which kind of look like earless, trunked camels. You have all sorts of background creatures, including a group of tourists from Rats Tyrell species, which are these, like, imagine a creature with the head of a cockatoo but the body of a skink, but bipedal. Did you notice that one scene where they're just like in the background walking in a row, just looking around?
No, I don't. What is the species called?
I think it was species belong to this character called Rat Tyrell. R-A-T-S.
Yeah, I think I know which one you mean. Yeah, but I don't know which scene you mean.
So it's just one of the many background scenes in Tatooine. I mean, there's a kind of like food vendor or a like doner salesman that sells frogs, and Jar Jar tries to eat one of them. There is like a whole bunch of things, including Sebulba.
Oh yeah, Sebulba. Like that guy influenced a lot of my creature design, I think.
Okay, so maybe take it away for Sebulba's discussion.
I mean, it's just a cool concept of a creature that walked on its arms and used its feet to grasp things. Because that's so. I mean, it's not original. Like I think the very first time you see a creature like that was After Man by Dougal Dixon with the Night Stalker.
I think as far as films go, it's like original with a capital O. I mean,
in films, I guess, yeah, but in fiction, it has been done before, funnily enough.
Oh, of course. But I think like characters like Watto and Sebulba and also Jar Jar Binks and all those other background creatures, they were like the ILM team's way of flexing, basically saying like, not only can we create non-human, purely digital characters, but we can create them in the wildest of forms, as long as there's a face for the character to talk to.
Yeah, but I think they with some of the pod races, I think they overdid it because they looked a bit too much like cartoon characters.
I don't know. I have a special place in my heart for the pod racers, but
yeah, but
I understand.
Like the what was his name? Like something Quadinaros, the guy that is literally all face with arms.
Ben Quadinaros.
Yeah.
Looks like Ben Quadinaros is having engine trouble too.
The only guy out of 3 wives.
Yeah. He didn't know how lucky he was, and I mean,
but I think it just looks too. I don't know. I just don't think he fits with the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, it looks like something that crawled in from a Pepsi commercial. I'll grant you that. Well, who was your favorite pod racer outside of Sebulba?
Outside of Sebulba, I don't know. There is this like creature that like before he like drives into the stalagmite, he makes this like very distinct lizard screech. That's
Rat Tyrell.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He looks like a ceratopsian. He looks like a protoceratops.
Somehow that one is always stuck in my head. Has been stuck in my head. There was also this guy with like multiple limbs. Do you remember that one? The spindly creature.
Yeah, Scano. He's my favorite. He looks like a spider with a long neck and a gray alien's head. He's like a very apparently like. And also, if you played the Star Wars Pod Racers game, which was one of the last games I played, he's like one of the OP characters. Like he's really fast. And then I remember this other thing. There's a whole bunch of them, and like some of them are very forgettable. Like there's this guy that looks like a blue furry alien or whatever.
Yeah, I mean there is also this guy that he's from a race that was already featured in the original trilogy, like the goats with 3 eyes.
Reyes, yeah. I mean, his name was not Reyes, but yeah, he was cool too.
Yeah, those things always scared me as a kid. I don't know why.
I think it looks like secretly looks like a satanic goat with a third eye.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, there was something always very uncanny in them compared to what
Yeah. I really like that thing. Then there was this other thing which looks like it's got a face that looks like a crocodile or a boar, but it's got also long teeth like a deep sea fish, and it even has a lure with an Eska on it.
Yeah, I think I know which one you mean. Yeah, basically the warthog kind of guy.
Yeah, warthog with a deep sea fish. I forgot what he was called, but he's such a cool design. Unfortunately, he dies hitting something, and before dying he makes the most ridiculous sound, which is like which is like, I mean, basically some guy just took a mic and shouted into it, and they just ended up using that.
Yeah, I mean the pod race scene. I don't know. Would you say that it's like one of the best ones from prequel trilogy?
Among pod racers or among the movies
No, I mean
themselves?
the whole scene.
Hmm.
Is it one of the best from the prequels? Would you say that?
Definitely agree. I mean, once again, at the time it was out, nobody had seen anything like that.
Well, I mean, it is. It is an homage to Ben-Hur.
Yes, but the camera movement, they're not all over the place like some of the later movies which use CG. So they're still like grounded, and the whole landscape and just the sheer sense of speed, which I think to understand it, the best movie to watch is American Graffiti by George Lucas again, because that film is all about sort of age of innocence between just before the Vietnam War, and it's about basically the lives of a bunch of teenagers in, I think, Southern California, just driving around in cars, like trying to get late, having adventures. It's just a beautiful, like, if you're like into movies, like, you should definitely, it's one of the most beautiful and heartwarming films. It's one of those films you can come back again and again, like you could watch it 5 times once every year you could watch it. And
like, that's a thing about the Boba Fett show many criticize, but I kind of like that they actually paid homage to American Graffiti by introducing this Tatooine biker gang.
Oh, yeah, obviously. I haven't seen that, but I can totally relate. And George Lucas does that a lot. I mean, in Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, the movie opens with a group of hot rod riding teenagers, and they're driving in the desert somewhere, and then
while we're like on the topic of like Indiana Jones and Star Wars and like all of this like interlinking between George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, in the very first Senate scene, like where you see this Galactic Senate for the first time, did you notice that there's
E.T.'s race?
Yeah, and honestly, it's a lovely Easter egg, but when you think about it too much, it kind of fucks brain, because again, it implies that E.T.'s race canon Star Wars, but Star Wars takes place in our universe, and
yes,
and on Earth he saw like Elliot play with his Star Wars figures, and he also like when they're like going out trick or treating for Halloween, like E.T. sees a kid in a Yoda mask, and it appears like he recognizes Yoda, and it opens up a lot of questions if you consider that, because that means like Star Wars is both real and a piece of fiction in this universe.
Well, maybe he came from another universe, and
no, I think Steven Spielberg said that he came from another galaxy, which would imply it's the Star Wars galaxy.
Then maybe it's actually really scary, because perhaps it means on every galaxy there's an Earth and an ET planet. And
I think my personal justification is that George Lucas didn't invent Star Wars. He's just telling us the story that he heard from someone else.
Well, but more about E.T., then it also probably means that his healing powers you see in the movie are the Force. He's using the Force there.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, like, remember, E.T. brought back that plan, and Darth Sidious tells us there is only one Force wielder who can cheat death. So E.T. is Darth Plagueis, is what I'm saying.
Fantastic. I mean, I really like the forced use of logic in narrow circumstances such as these. It's really like...
It makes total sense, doesn't it, though?
Yeah, like it's sort of Descartesian movie analysis with like hard logic. It does make sense. It's like internally congruent, at least to a degree.
Yeah, instead of like being killed by Sidious, he just fucked off to another galaxy, and then he ended up on Earth with Elliot.
Yeah. Then it means Elliot was maybe the chosen one, or like somebody of Darth Vader's caliber.
Maybe, or I don't know, didn't E.T. kind of just parasitically feed off his energy?
I think it was the other way around. E.T. gave his life for Elliot to heal.
Yeah, but when E.T. was near death, Elliot was near death too, because they were interlinked.
I mean, I'll never forget that scene where they like...
where he's like in the
they show E.T. pale and white. It's like...
yeah, oh god, that is so awful.
Yeah.
And he like makes like inhuman screech. I mean, I know he's screaming for help, but it's so disturbing, like...
Yes. I mean, like, I think these were all intentional. They just wanted to give children the first approximation of death they could find, and there we have it. But moving on to the part of the Star Wars universe that's less paradoxical. Let us move on in episode 1.
Yeah, so after they leave what happens, is there anything else that happens on Tatooine after the pod race?
No, there I just have to plug one of my favorite aliens. She just appears on one of the scene, and she's this like humanoid girl with an orange jumpsuit. And if you look closely, like she just appears in one scene during the pod race, like just looking. But if you look closely, her fingers have like these like long needle-like extensions, and I don't know what she was, like some vampiric shapeshifter race or whatever.
I mean, yeah, that's this. What are they like? There's like these witches of I don't know. I don't remember the name of the.
They're the witches of Dathomir, but she's not one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Where the Rancors also come from, Dathomir.
I don't think this alien was from that place. I think she was maybe from the same species as Asajj Ventress, or maybe not even.
Exactly, Asajj. Yeah, I know which one you mean. I know which lady you mean in the movie. It's like maybe it's not a race. It's just like some ethnicity of human, but
with an extra joint in the fingers. Like her hands are like a lizard, like not even like a insect. Anyways, it was just like something that stayed with me for long after that movie, and that was it. I think if we want to talk about, unless we want to talk about the robots of the Trade Federation, which are extremely interesting. Droidekas, fighter droid.
Yeah, I mean, sure, we can talk about them. I love the droids in the prequels in general, especially like the B1 battle droid, which they get. I feel so sad for them because at no point in the entire franchise do they get any respect, even though there are scenes, especially in Clone Wars, where it's shown that they are actually like sentient, like they can think for themselves, and they just get slaughtered indiscriminately by the Jedi, by even their own allies. Like
these are the standard battle droids, like the ones that go Roger, Roger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think they need a Tachikoma moment. Do you know about the Tachikomas?
No.
So Tachikomas appear in a far unrelated intellectual property, the Ghost in the Shell series. They are these like police combat droids that look like jumping spiders crossed with a tank, and they've got a very cute appearance. And in the main anime, basically they just speak a little, and they just help catch the bad guys and everything. And then there's this very poignant scene where they all go off to die. But then, like, if you look at the extended world of the anime, there's actually one segment in which these robots get together and like talk about the meaning of life and death, and they say something very poignant, like, I am sentient, yet technically I'm made out of metal and silicone. That means I'm not alive, and it means I can sacrifice myself for the line of duty. And then they talk about like Heidegger and Kant. It's like one of the most surreal moments in pop culture. But I think there's like a Tachikoma moment for the battle droids just waiting to be written into one of the many spin-off series.
Yeah, that is literally my one big criticism of all the Star Wars movies. Like how, I mean, it's very obvious that the droids in the Star Wars universe are sapient beings, just as capable of feeling like humans. And everyone in the universe doesn't think about how wrong it is that these things are used as slaves and that you can like regularly delete their memory. I think Anakin is like the only person that doesn't do that, which is why R2-D2 keeps memory of all the events.
Yeah, but at the end of the third episode, doesn't Obi-Wan says, "Oh, just wipe their mind."
Yeah, but only C-3PO.
Oh, okay.
R2-D2 has full memory of everything that happened in the prequels. That's why he recognizes Obi-Wan.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Well, what was I going to say? In the universe, droids even feel pain, and in Return of the Jedi, like there's even a torture scene where they're like branded with a hot iron.
That is fucked up, actually. Yeah, they programmed robots to have pain. Why would you do that? And like the only time this was ever addressed in one of the movies was in Solo, and you remember you have this like fembot or whatever you want to call it that actively wants to protest for droid rights.
Yeah.
And she basically just dies and has her mind linked with the ship, and kind of a sad ending for her. Because now she's permanently made into a machine that is controlled by a human, and she has no autonomy anymore.
Whoa. I mean, if you look at the Tales of the Bounty Hunter, which, by the way, we skipped them to Bosk, Zakas,
Oh yeah.
The reptilian alien in Empire Strikes Back. I mean, Star Wars is the gift that just keep on giving. Yeah.
You want to talk about IG-88?
Yeah, IG-88. Basically, his origin story is kind of Terminator movie. He just like something happens in a factory and he realizes how biologics treat machines, and then he goes on a rampage and becomes independent. And yeah, look, I also think the Star Wars universe is overdue for a Butlerian jihad sort of situation.
Apparently, like in the old Legends lore, that did happen somewhere in the deep past, and the robots lost.
Oh, so that's why nobody gives a fig about them anymore. It's very sad.
Yeah, it is very sad. Again, that's the one thing that the lore of the movies, or generally the lore of Star Wars, needs to improve on, because it just doesn't fit well with me how robots are like this, obviously mistreated, even though they are sentient beings.
I mean, Star Wars has a weird calculus of lives in general. I mean, it's actually, if you think about it, one of the darkest universes ever, where every character has killed somebody. Every character carries a weapon.
And there is a whole race of people bred for combat with the clones.
Yeah, that a planet explodes and billions die.
Yeah,
and
that too. And the Jedi take kids when they're like 3 years old and just
not even
have
like
them. But
the extreme like stormtroopers, like as long as they put on the white armor, they can be killed indiscriminately. And that element has always been like removed from the universe. Imagine in real life, somebody, even if he fights for like a quote-unquote good cause, like if he blows up a city, like imagine people who dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and stuff. Like imagine doing that for the Death Star probably had more people on it than Hiroshima. Now Alderaan had so it's like dark, callousness. Like I think all characters in Star Wars are like sociopaths to some degree. Like a guy could shoot 5 people and make a wisecrack joke, like Han Solo or that other guy. I even forgot his name. Oscar Isaac. I know the actor's name, but I forgot the character's name.
Poe Dameron.
Poe Dameron, yeah. Like so, there's always like a dark calculus of lives and suffering in the Star Wars universe. So that's, speaking of dark calculus, it took us an hour and a half to go through episode 1.
And we aren't even
I propose reaching the end of this episode, clearing our thought, and then tackling episodes 2 and 3 on later podcasts. Because if we go there now, episode 2 is one of the most creature-heavy movies of the whole extravaganza, the whole universe, the whole.
Okay, we can do that. But there's 2 more creatures I want to talk about. And
yes.
And yeah, at the end with the Gungan battle, when the Gungans fight the battle droids, there's like 2 of their war mount, the Famba, and what was the other one called? The
Palumpaset.
No,
the Kadus.
Kadu, yeah. And
I love those.
Yeah, same. Like the
whole
Famba. The Famba is apparently
the whole bipedal, ornithischian yet alien look I really like with the Kadu creatures.
Yeah, they're really, and also they can swim apparently.
Yeah, in a weird frog-like way, like a giraffe frog.
Yeah, they're just really cool, and they fit the Gungans very well. Like, do you want to bet they are like closely related?
I mean, perhaps Kadus look really related. I mean, they look like they're from the same clade. Fambas look more like the giant lizards, look more like crocodilian or even like diadectids, like one of those early line of amphibians leading to proper reptiles.
That's the funny thing, they are actually classified as amphibians in the universe. They reproduce in water. Like, let me show you here. There's even a diagram of like their life cycle here in the book.
Oh yeah, true, very, very true. Oh god. And while we're at it, let's tackle 2 more creatures from the Naboo swamps. One of them is, I think, one of the most original designs for a high-grazing herbivore. It's Ikopi creature, you know that?
Ikopi, yeah, it's the one that looks like an ungulate, right?
It's the like giraffe with no head, basically.
Okay, wait, no. Let me go through this book. Giraffe with no head. I don't know which one you're talking about.
So it's this creature that's clearly a mammalian, and you see it in the Stampede, so it is in the movie.
I found it. It's the one with the long tongue.
Yeah, it's got like long legs, just like a giraffe, but up top the head is like big and weirdly like sheep-like, and there's no neck, but instead it has got an enormous tongue which it uses to browse. And I think it's like a really original solution to a long-standing problem, like how do you reach high-growing food? In our universe, sauropods did that by growing their necks, giraffes did that by growing their necks too, or elephants did that by extending their noses. So in that respect, I think it's a great solution. And then another animal I really love from the swamps of Naboo is the ikopi bird. No, the peko or the pico. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, peko. I have it here. The one with the really big jaws.
It's the one that looks like a dinosaur, but with the head of a toucan. Maybe
Yeah.
I am confusing the name.
I mean, it's the one with wings, right? Not the flight.
No. It doesn't
Oh.
fly. It looks like a theropod dinosaur.
Oh, that one is the picobi.
Yeah, the picobi. Yes,
The
yes.
one with wings, the peko, and the picobi is the one that looks like a flightless bird, basically.
Yeah. I really like that design too. And when I saw it like running briefly in the movie, I always wondered like, when are they gonna do dinosaurs this way properly? Because even after Jurassic Park, that technology was something new. And well, I guess we learned our answer with Jurassic World, the series. Let's face it, not great, but yeah. So there, my friend. Yes, we are looking now at a picture of picobis, and they really look like, I'm sure something like this is waiting to be discovered. Some weird
Definitely.
Alvarez or...
Actually looks very similar to one of those spec dinosaurs from 2005 King Kong.
Yes. I remember in the movie, in the Kong Island book, it was actually described as a flightless pterosaur.
Oh yeah, the scissor beak. Yeah, but there is also a dinosaur that is has like a head shape like an ibis bird.
I mean, look, it's a small universe, but these designs really always go hard, and I really like them.
Okay, yeah. I know that now that I think about it, there should be like, why aren't there like more explicitly dinosaur-like design Star Wars?
Let me think about it.
I mean, okay, the Famba, it kind of looked very historic, but again, it's not based on any like actual dinosaur. And
Rontos look a little prehistoric, but they look
yeah,
more like...
Rontos. Yeah, they're like more like a giant rhinoceros, like a Paraceratherium.
Yeah. Then there's the creature from episode 2, the arena thing that's basically a Placerias.
Yeah, although that's not a dinosaur, but yeah, you're
I
right.
like,
And
canonically, there are
we'll
ducks.
talk about this in like future parts, but on Utapau there is also this like very Ornithochirus inspired pterosaur thing.
Yeah, there's actually 2 versions of them. One of them has 4 legs and 2 wings. The other has... this is just an amazing place.
Yes, but we will get to that in the future.
Yes, everyone. Look, you can probably tell that this is one of our favorite topics by just how long we spoke about this thing. And any last points before we send everybody home to drink Pepsi and watch pod racing and stuff?
The whole time as you were talking, I had episode 2 running in the background, and right now it's the scene where Poggle the Great, I think that was the name of the Geonosian king, hands over to Count Dooku the plans for the Death Star.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna talk about next episode, where we talk about, it's the Geonosis special basically.
Yeah, where we get to practice our Geonasian languages and make fools of ourselves. But thanks to everybody who Look, thanks for watching all this way. And if you listen this far, leave a comment saying, say I watched to the end, and then maybe name us your favorite Star Wars creature, so we beat the algorithm. And if you're watching so far, I just had those Nuhun Ankara Boncuk pasta makarnas. Those things are great, but they're also not free. We're recording on a Friday where both me and TK officially have worked. So we're doing this from the kindness of our heart. So once again, if you just came into this series, maybe you're a new visitor, I don't know. If you liked our stuff, please consider supporting TK and myself on Patreon. For a lot of you, especially you American viewers, $1 a month is nothing. $1 a month is nothing. You're getting to like $100 day these days in the big cities and stuff. It's awful. So I'm sure you can spare us a shekel or a credit or a dollar or a lira or whatever. So here I am, like, asking for your financial contribution once again. We both make a nice little side hustle from these things, and more is always welcome. That's all I'll say.
All right. Then. See you next time.
Yeah,
May the force be with you all.
Always.
I'm a Grand General. Be in luck. I'm the only one hereabouts who has one. But they might as well buy a new ship. It would be cheaper, I think, huh? Saying of which, how's he gonna pay for all of this?
I have 20,000 Republic dactaries.
Republic credits? Republic credits are no good out here. I need something more real.
I don't have anything else, but credits will do fine.
No, they won't.
Credits will do fine.
No, they won't! What, you think you're some kind of Jedi waving your hand around like that? I'm a Toydarian. My tricks don't work on me. Only money. No money, no parts, no deal. And no one else has a T-14 hyperdrive, I promise you that.